Vishruth Srivastava, Managing Director, Yoda Plus Technologies Private Limited. Mr. Krishnan Subramaniam, FICS International Vice Chairman, Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers. Welcome. Dr. Veera Thakkar, Honorable Secretary, Indian Institute of Freight Forwarders. Welcome, sir. Over to you.
Thank you. Good evening. And thank you, Marex, for giving us this opportunity. Wonder why we have been given the last panel discussion. Well, incidentally, we were also the last panel which was constituted. All the other panels were galloping away and we were the last one. In fact, day before yesterday, we were finalized. Well, I can take solace in the principle that probably Shah Rukh Khan is the last person to come on the stage. So maybe, thank you Kamal for that, and Dr. Radhika and Delphine Madam for that. Now while we are on the Hollywood part of it, I think we are like Singham 3. Our panel is like Singham 3. We have all, I believe everybody has seen Singham 3. It has all the top superstars in that, so probably our last panel has all the superstars in. So let's give them a big clap. Yeah, we are Singham 3 and I hope we go down with guns blazing. So I'll take a very, very quick little time from all of you to just quickly introduce our panel. Mr. Krishnan doesn't need any introduction. He's the International Vice Chairman of International Chartered Shipbrokers. Neerav ji is very closely associated with one of the very senior officials with FFI. The entire shipping moves under them, they are the freight forwarders. And Vishruth ji is, last couple of panels we were talking about AI and cyber security. Well, he is the AI man. He heads a company called DocuTrade, which is purely into artificial intelligence and has got multiple clients in the US. Multiple of them, various of them. And we're very proud to have all of these Singham 3 superheroes in our panel. We are going to follow a little different format, all the other panel had question and answers. We are delving into something called electronic bills of lading, which is a relatively new prospect or aspect in shipping. When I joined shipping, we had about 65 people on the ship, and gradually it dwindled down to just 18, 20. That's because of technological advances. And electronic bills of lading is one of that. It actually is not really new. It is there in existence since 1990s. And the first electronic bills of lading which came into the shipping was called Bolero. Not Mahindra Bolero, but Bolero, which the full form of that is Bills of Lading Electronic Registration Organization. And somebody who was involved in the introduction of Bolero into shipping is Mr. Krishnan here. So we'll start with him. He'll give yes, that's why I said we have all the superheroes like Singham here, Singham 3 rather. So he was involved in the introduction of Bolero into shipping, and that will be followed by Vishruth ji, who's actually in the artificial intelligence. He is heading a company, DocuTrade, which is the only Indian firm based out of India which is ready to provide a platform for electronic bills of lading. So he is going to be the next speaker. And finally, we have Neerav ji, who's actually practicing. He's part of the Freight Forward Association. So he's actually practicing those kinds of bills of lading. So we'll start, and we have a different format. Krishnan ji is going to tell us about the history, followed by a few minutes from Vishruth ji, and then finally Neerav ji. So may I invite Krishnan sir to please. Thank you.
Very good evening, all of you. Thanks very much again, Captain Chellam and the entire Marex team for putting this together. Captain Kapoor, who just brought this idea that it's good to discuss this, and because we just started discussing on electronic bills of lading a month back when we met up in Ahmedabad. So it was quite a warm kind of a gesture to invite me over here. So thanks for that, Captain Kapoor. And of course, fellow panelists here, Dr. Thakkar and Mr. Srivastav. It was great interaction the last couple of days. There's a lot of learning which came out of that. So I don't know how many of you really listened to what Captain Kapoor said, but a quick show of hands. How many years back was the first electronic bills of lading, or the thought of that happened? More than 10 years? How many? Show of hands? More than 20 years? More than 30 years? Okay, so here we go. Oops. I need some boost here. Okay. So this is a 34-year history, in terms of when it all started. And then of course, Captain had put a huge onerous task on me, telling that I was involved in that. No, it was not a direct one. I used to work for Shell at that time, right from '96 in Dubai, and still in Dubai. And when this and Shell was one of the first signatories for the Bolero project. And when it was announced and we were asked for feedback, because I was in the trading support team in shipping and logistics. So Bolero, even before that, the CMI, they kick-started this whole process in 1990, and of course the Bolero started off in 94, and then the ICC's International Chamber of Commerce project, and then of course WIMCO came in, and then of course the main container line started their own projects with respect to the electronic bills of lading. And then later on came the Digital Container Shipping Association, bringing all the main lines together. And as we speak, these are the current systems, which are there in place. Some of them which are very unique in terms of their clientele, and that's something which is going to be discussed today in terms of the interoperability. In terms of one of the biggest challenges which we have is that are we again as a user being bombarded with multiple systems, which of course defeats the whole purpose of making it much more simpler and easier. And of course the latest change here, or the addition here, is in terms of the FIT alliance which has come in, which is the future of international trade, bringing in all the parties together. As you see that all the parties have been doing their bit, and I'm going to talk a little bit about from a user perspective, because I've been on the trading side and on the ship owner side, and primarily on the bulk chartering side. So that's the perspective which I want to bring to the table today. From a sales point of view, and as a trader, we look at different types of transactions. Just a summary here in terms of the big ones. You've got stock transfers which happen, and then the sales to customers can happen either on an open account, where there is no bank which is directly involved there for the documents, or it could be documents against payment or documents against acceptance. And then of course at the far end you have the letter of credit, where entirely there is one or more than one bank which comes into the picture, guaranteeing the payment to the beneficiary. And on the shipping side, we have, say, you've got the container shipment. Again, you've got variations there, whether it's directly with the main line or through an NVO or through a forwarder. Now those are the broad ones which I have put in there. And then you've got the other liner cargoes, could be ro-ro, could be break bulk, and then you've got bulk shipments which are under a charter party. So when we look at the whole the ecosystem on what we are trying to do here, because I've seen some of the papers which FIT has published. Yes, they have addressed both the main ones in terms of liner as well as the chartering market for the bulk shipments. But however, I think that we will hear more and see where the gaps are. And this is one document, which is issued by the carrier, And oops, we're losing some time here. Where should I direct the pointer? There, over here. So on one hand, we have the cargo interests who are there, right? And so you've got the trader, the buyer, the seller, or the shipper and consignee who's named in the BL. And on the second hand, you've got the logistics service providers, right? And on the third end, we have all the statutory or the insurance, etc., or customs and regulatory authorities. This is one document which goes through all these, and the moment there is a transaction which has to happen, this is the document which is called for at the outset. So that's the importance which we, and if we have to have a foolproof system in terms of adoption, we have to consider the requirement and the whole responsibility and role of each of these parties in the chain. And that's one of the biggest challenge, I would say. So, can we just push it from there? So who's the weakest link in the chain? Because, you know, we have these discussions regarding emissions and EVs, you know, so a car which is an EV which is running on a charged battery, but with diesel or fuel which is being burned somewhere else, is it really a green car, right? Does it really enforce or enhance the aspect of a green movement? The same thing applies here also. I've seen statistics in terms of telling that yes, there are so many electronic bills of lading which has been issued in the last so many years or an annual figure, but the moment that is converted into a paper by a new trader who's in the system, who's not part of any platform, it again defeats the whole purpose. So again, what needs to be measured is in terms of if it is issued electronically, does it move electronically till the very end of accomplishment of that particular transaction? Right? So the weakest link is always that new forwarder, that new trader who is coming, and we cannot stop them. You know, that's how business works. So this was a use case. Interestingly, I just did this project a couple of months back for a ship owner based in Dubai, and they had a unique problem, and it was based on bills of lading because they were an investor, they owned ships, they had a ship owning entity, they were chartering in ships, they were chartering out their ships to third parties, and then they were also a trader of multiple cargoes in the dry bulk trade, and therefore their own ships were being used. They were also using chartered in ships, and it was the same team which was handling most of these jobs, and there was a huge ambiguity in terms of what was the responsibility and liability when it came to bills of lading. So it was very good to bring it over here because these are some of the things which needs to be taken into account, because you will have these unique, and shipping is unique, you will have these unique cases which comes in which sometimes you cannot be solved by a general public platform. So this was just the summary of that particular use case. I'm sure that we would have more of that based on the experience which we have in the room here. So the same party is there as a trader. They are buying cargo from somebody on FOB basis, they're selling on a CIF or CFR basis, and therefore they have different parties of a shipper and consignee, and many of these transactions under letters of credit. So you've got banks who come into the chain, and therefore there was this huge problem which needed to be addressed. So I had to go back and trace each and every contract, which is the legal entity, and then make corrections to their entire system, right? Just because of the ambiguity in bills of lading. A quick summary on types of bills of lading. I'm sure that the experienced audience here knows about this here. Can we have the go on, please? Can somebody advance the slides? So on a shipment-related basis, you have got these broad categories which are there, and then based on how it is used, the functionality, you've got either it's a negotiable one, a long form, short form, charter party, BL, and I've just highlighted the switch BL because this is again another aspect where sometimes an electronic bills of lading can have a challenge in terms of whether many reasons why switch bills are used by traders, and rightfully so, and therefore can the existing platforms of what we are trying to develop address those concerns, because there's a huge volume of bills which are done on switch basis. Of course, it comes with its own risks, and that's what the carriers need to be aware of. So looking at the whole ecosystem, are we in a space where it has only been digitized, where it has been just converted into an electronic format like a PDF format and being sent? Do we call that an EBL? Or have certain systems and platforms matured into a digitalization where there is right from, say, issuing the shipping instructions to the carrier system, printing of the BL, or even if it is completely transmitted electronically, are we there? Or when would we see a complete digital transformation where all the parties involved in the chain would be part of that to ensure that a bill which is issued in an electronic format would continue its journey and gets accomplished in the electronic format. So that's from my side. Thank you very much, and I'm sure that I'm waiting to hear the thoughts. Though we had multiple discussions, but looking forward to the points from the platform side as well as from the FIATA side. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The organizers have put a clock here, and I was marking that you finished in exactly 9 minutes. That's very nice, sir. I have a few questions before I invite the next speaker. You spoke about switch bills of lading. How is EBL going to address that, sir? How are the electronic bills of lading going to address the switching of bills of lading?
So from a trader perspective, as I mentioned, this would be a major concern or a major requirement which is there. So whatever I have seen so far about where the platforms are able to provide, because there's a lot of data which, one of the main reasons, I would say, where as a trader we used to do switching of bills because I don't want my supplier to know who my end customer is. And therefore I take the initial BL in my name and then I switch it where I become the shipper and my customer becomes the consignee in that particular BL. I'm selling cargo, I'm diverting cargo to somewhere else, of course, provided the ship owner also agrees to it on basis of freight, etc. So the main concern as a user I have is that can a platform provide that facility? Would my next customer, who is a small trader, would they also subscribe to this, or I would have to convert and terminate the electronic format and go back into this?
Thank you, sir. That's very interesting, and that's where I'll invite Vishwadji, because he's the one who's going to provide that platform. So the question stands for you also. Once you finish, I'll ask the same thing again. Thank you.
So, first of all, thank you, Marex, for inviting me. Thank you for this, and thank you to the other esteemed panel members, Mr. Krishnan and Mr. Nirav, for being in this panel with me. So today, I come from the perspective of a technology provider. We are just enablers. The shipping industry is the core, and as part of DocuTrade and Yoda Plus, we facilitate and make things, we aim to make life simpler for the shipping industry. Yeah. So we'll start with the challenges and opportunities in maritime documentation. So first we have to understand the current landscape. I'm sure, and already Mr. Krishnan has explained, and I'll just quickly go over it. So the bill of lading is a very critical document, as we all know. It is not only a negotiable instrument, it also confers title to the holder of the goods in the ship, and that is why it is very crucial to make sure that when you digitize it, you don't compromise on security. And so we all know about 98 to 99% of the bills of lading which are negotiable instruments at least, and a lot of the surrounding documents are still paper. Now, why is that a problem? That is a problem because it causes delays, it can lead to forgery, inefficiencies, and error. And so basically the manual processing and even the couriering, the printing, all that has a huge impact on not just the trade but also on the environment. So we're talking about 4 billion pieces of paper floating around at any point of time in the world, and they're just I would say blockchain based. There are about 15 providers all over the world which are now looking at digitizing this basis blockchain, which we'll come to later. And so yeah, so before we move to why we should digitize, we should also understand that there are both pros and cons. And the pros obviously are mentioned, significant cost savings, enhanced operational efficiency, reduced fraud risk, environmental conservation, and increased trade. One thing we forget is that also we can have more trade if there is greater trust in the system, which can be enabled by digitization. The cons, initially it was a con, it was a high initial investment, but that has come down, which I'll come to, why it has come down. And also the resistance to change, it is something that is, what I would say, it takes time for people to adopt to a new system. It's like the UPI, for a time no one used UPI, and then all of a sudden there was an inflection point and people started using UPI. So similarly, the EBL is at that inflection point according to me. The need for regulatory alignment, which was not there before. Mr. Krishnan said right that it's been there for more than 30 plus years, but the regulatory alignment was never there. And so, that was one of the key friction points. And also the training and adoption challenges, reliance on technology infrastructure, all those were the cons that were there before. So now we come to the digitization and the digital transformation of the same. So why use blockchain technology? There's already information technology. We have been with information technology for the last 30 years, but it has never worked. And the reason is digitization of bills of lading is not the same as digitization of say a check or something like that, because this is a very high value transaction. So it is very critical, at the cost of just not working on paper, we cannot compromise on security, we cannot compromise on compromise on the other aspects. And so blockchain comes in because it is a proven technology, it is secure, it has an immutable ledger. We all know about Bitcoin, it is the alternative currency now to the world, and it is being used all over the world. It's based on blockchain technology, and the similar kind of security and immutable ledger and an audit trail is provided by blockchain. And more importantly by public blockchain, because prior initiatives have been on something called distributed ledger technology, which is a private blockchain. So we'll come to that also later. And also the legal and regulatory support. People may be aware of the model of electronic transferable rewards, or the milliter. This has been this is basically a UNCITRAL's model law for facilitating global trade and for giving the same legal standing to a bill of digital version of a bill of lading as a paper bill of lading, provided certain conditions are met. And at DocuTrade, in fact, that's what we do. We are compliant with those guidelines, and we provide the platform for that. And in the last 1.5 years, about almost 10 countries have introduced acts which are complying with the milliter guidelines, and that is one of the key key facilitators in what would actually lead to the adoption of the electronic bill of lading. So the role of regulatory support, as I mentioned, it is very important, because, and not just in one country, it has to be globally. So wherever there is a buyer, wherever there is a seller, both jurisdictions have to support the bill of lading in case of any liability or any other encumbrance. So that is very crucial, and that is why the introduction of milliter and of the acts which are complying with milliter is a really a big transitionary, a big moment in the history of, I think, the digitization of bill of lading. And more countries are adopting it, and India is also, there's a lot of discussions happening in the ministry, the commerce ministry, the shipping ministry on the same. And what has changed now? Sorry. Why did past initiatives fail? So 30 years, and 30 years it has not succeeded. So why should why has it failed? One was the high cost, which we mentioned in the cons. The high cost basically because there was blockchain as a private blockchain is a very expensive technology, which is not the case now, but with the public blockchains. The lack of interoperability. This is very critical because there can be a wave BL, there can be a CargoX as was mentioned in one of the slides. So these are all different providers. Now if a buyer has has wave BL and a seller has CargoX, and there's a transaction, then how do we ensure interoperability of the bill of lading? That is one of the key friction points that has existed. So that is what I meant by lack of interoperability and the lack of regulatory support that existed before, which we are now kind of getting rid of and with the data. And what has changed now? Again, the regulatory support, 10 countries, more countries on the pipeline. What I have not mentioned is the new open standards. Now, this is very crucial. This is the most important thing according to me. The open standards based platforms means just like in if people are aware of the technology world in operating systems, there used to be Windows, and then there were the open source Linux, and then it just blew up. So there are open standards now where it need not be a monopoly. It need not be one person or one platform. It can be several platforms so long as they adopt the open standards. And there are a lot of now providers that are adopting the open standard, which is called Trade Trust. Trade Trust is a Singapore-based open standard, and more providers are now using that. And what that means is that an importer can have one system, an exporter can have another system, the bank can have another system, the liner can or the carrier can have another system, and they can all talk to each other. And that is the beauty of the open standards that have now been enabled. And obviously the use of public blockchains, which dramatically reduces the cost because we are now piggybacking on a global network of thousands of nodes. We don't have to invest in the infrastructure cost anymore. We can piggyback on that for a small transaction fee. And the final thing that has changed now is obviously the top 5 to 10 carrier companies have committed to 100% e-mail adoption by 2030. Now that is huge. We talked about the billions of documents floating around. Now, and a lot of it obviously the surrounding documents, not just bills of lading, but also the certificate of origin, warehouse receipts, invoices, insurance, and so a lot of documents. But just imagine from 1% to 100% email adoption and billions of documents. The impact of that in terms of in the shipping industry is going to be huge. Thank you.
Thanks, Vishwajit. I see a lot of people of my age and my gurus sitting here. All this, technology which you were speaking about went over our heads, A few days back I was traveling by taxi and the fellow said, look, I don't have change, the taxi fellow. I said, well, I don't have Google Pay. I don't understand Google Pay. But my journey started because as a part of Niti Aayog, we were having a meeting, the Niti Aayog drafting in Maritime policy, and our Prime Minister happened to walk in. I just met him for a few seconds and he said, look, a country will progress only if two industries are successful. One is obviously agriculture and the other one is shipping. These are his words. And the second thing he said was,
with the start that Captain Kapoor has given and what our panel colleagues have, Mr. Krishnan and Mr. Vishruth have explained about the process. I'll try to keep up to that capacity. Of course, Mr. Krishnan has given us a great insight about the understanding of the evolvement and the process, and Mr. Vishruth has given us the background about how the backend works. And I would be giving you the understanding of the practicality of how the electronic bill of lading works in terms of, first of all, the organization which is called the FIATA, which is the International Freight Forwarders Associations, and this body has come up with the FIATA electronic bill of lading. Now, as I would, can we have the slides on? So, FIATA post-COVID actually started with a reset program. Now, they came up with a lot of initiatives, and one of them was that they wanted to keep freight forwarders as in the center of the whole activity, as the heart of the whole strategy. And that's where the electronic bill of lading for FIATA came into picture. Can you change this slide? So FIATA bill of lading is actually the most widely popular and widely recognized document used in the international trade today. Let's understand how FIATA is distributing this. So FIATA, being the international body of freight forward associations, has got the national associations in every country, and these national associations have been given the authority to release the bill of lading through their members. With the banks or with the other aspects of activities. Now, Mr. Vishruth pointed out a very important point, which is the bill of lading. That is the document of title. Okay. Now, when we say document of title, all the terms of payment which are considered between the buyer and the seller, they are listed in the contract of sale. Okay, so the bank is going to follow the instructions whatever are there as part of the contract of sale, and which is listed there, whether in terms of the payment terms as letter of credit or as may be the case. Taking it further, banks will not deal with any goods or services or the performance to which an electronic record or the paper or document may relate to. Coming to the other concept of the EURC. Now we are aware of the Uniform Rules of Collections and the electronic Uniform Rules of Collections. They are important in terms of protection of the parties to trade, which are banks, traders, the buyers, sellers, because they outline specifically the responsibilities of each party when it comes to collection of goods and the money owed. I would also want to highlight about the Uniform Customs and Practices for Documentary Credits, the UCP, wherein the EUCP, in terms of electronic bill of lading, will also have a great supplement to this electronic presentation of the bill of lading, whereby to accommodate the presentation of documents and records alone in the combination with papers. So, although we have the paper document, the electronic format will also be available there. Now here, just to highlight that the EUCP will apply when the credit indicates that it is subject to EUCP. So in terms of the normal uniform custom trade practices of the letter of credit. We have the electronic format as well, and it has to indicate specifically the place for presentation. A place for presentation would be like a URL or maybe an email address or something of that sort. So this is how the electronic bill of lading is linked in terms of the banks. Going further to the next slide, I would now like to highlight on certain aspects on the challenges which are involved. So let's understand what are the challenges. Now, if I have to put it into a single word, that is demand. Now, why demand? Because first of all, if we look at the times of COVID, prior to COVID, a video meeting or an online meeting was an outcast. But things have changed because there was a requirement, and after this requirement, the way we conduct business, the activities has changed. There was a demand that drove. Even today, if there is any customer who would request a forwarder and say, I want an electronic bill of lading, then of course that will create. But the point here is, this demand has not yet been created. So that is the biggest challenge. And this can be created by highlighting the important aspects of the reduction in cost as well as the improved security which comes with the electronic bill of lading. The second point, acceptance, but before that I would like to just mention, and Mr. Vishrut would also agree to it, that in any of the challenges, technology is not a challenge. Although we are talking about electronic bill of lading, technology could be a challenge, but frankly, there are many platforms which are available. So technology per se is not a challenge as yet as compared to what exactly the other aspects are. So when I come to the next one, it is the acceptance. So when I say acceptance, most banks, institutions still do not accept the electronic documents. There are also regulatory issues. Now when I say regulatory issues, it means that when it comes to, like say for example, if you are having a trade with Bangladesh, in that you require the trade to be done through a letter of credit. And so the acceptance of the e-bill of lading will depend on the banks. So this is another aspect in terms of acceptance. And of course with regulatory, there are many jurisdictions where the electronic bill of lading is still not legally recognized as a document. So government bodies in certain cases still require a hard copy. So these are where the major other challenge is acceptance in terms of this diversity which is created. And apart from this, I would also highlight what both our co-panelists have spoken about, interoperability, because this is primarily the situation where many platforms are available, many electronic standards, the TMS, or we call as the transport management systems on the digital platforms are available, but they have to talk to each other. Systems have to connect to each other. So this interoperability is another one aspect where there is difficulty in harmonizing the data, and of course the standardization across various countries in terms of the systems and the integration for a seamless data exchange. Now here is where the FIT Alliance is going to be helpful to bridge this gap and come up with a practical solution to introduce and implement the electronic bill of lading. I thank you once again for listening, and Captain, thank you. I hope this has been the aspect.
Thank you, Nirajji. No matter how much we try, so we can't escape. Another few years, we will all have electronic bills of lading. They've already started experimenting with the ships. The technology has advanced so much, they've already started experimenting with the ships without a chief engineer on board. It's become a headline now. Interestingly, what both Neerajji and Vishrutji spoke about is something called, they mentioned about something called UCP. That is Uniform Customs and Practices for Documentary Credit System. Now the beauty of it is, are we aware actually as a master, this is the most important document which a master signs during his entire career, bill of lading. are we actually aware what should be the date on that bill of lading? Whether let us say cargo finished in a particular time and on a tanker the hoses were disconnected another time, what date should come on the bill of lading? Well, it is actually connected to UCP. Because bill of lading is one of the documents in the documented system, and Uniform Customs and Practices section 20 speaks that the date on the bill of lading should be the date on which the cargo was shipped. And the master himself makes the statement of facts, and whatever date he puts on that statement of facts should be the date on the bill of lading. So our law firm actually did a case where master unknowingly signed a bill of lading with a different date, and there was a case of fraud filed against him. So these are things which will automatically be addressed once we have electronic bills of lading. It's a very important thing which is coming into our industry. Before I open the floor for question answers from the audience, there are a few things which I would like to. First of all, thank you for your patience, and we have managed to finish 4 minutes and 32 seconds before completion of our time. So please give us a clap. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. So just one or two questions I'll address on behalf of everybody. First of all, to Vishruth. You are heading an organization called DocuTrade, which is providing a platform for EBL. Why DocuTrade, sir?
Simply because it is from India, and it is not just that. There were some names mentioned in one of the slides, CargoX, VPN. So I just want to highlight that the CargoX tried to poach one of our customers, and that customer has come back to us. So I think that says a lot about why DocuTrade.
Right, thank you. Plus, you have given a number of demonstrations to Ministry of Shipping as well as Finance.
Yes, and we have done audits on a lot of international corridors now, and it's basically it's a early stage for blockchain-based CBLs, and in International Chamber of Commerce case studies, there was a map where all the different email providers were from, and from India it was just us.
Right, thank you very much. So, also it's the only Indian platform built in India, so under Atmanirbhar scheme you are way ahead. Thank you for that. So the next question is to Neerav ji. How is that FAI is collaborating with FIATA and working towards getting this implementation of EBL in India?
So FAI, or the Freight Forwarders Association, Federation of Freight Forwarders Associations in India, is the only authorized body of FIATA in India, and it is represented through 32 different local associations across India. So here they are authorized to issue the EFBL, Electronic FIATA Bill of Lading, through its members, and so FIATA has its own digital platform, as well as there is a platform created by FAI. Members are open to utilize any of this platform, and FAI has 6,500 members. So technically there are 6,500 companies who have been given this chance to operate the FIATA Bill of Lading. So I think it's the largest platform available today to operate.
So it's already happening then?
It's already happening.
So another few years it will become reality. I think the only impediment which we see is linking it to the banking system. Once that happens, electronic bill of lading will become an actual law. Yeah, thank you very much for that. So I'll skip asking any question to Krishnan ji, because there is a question from Captain Sharma, my guru. It is addressed to Krishnan sir. So does the shipmaster have any meaningful role to play in electronic bills of lading? If not, does he or she still hold a responsibility for delivery of cargo without the BL? That's the question.
I think, first of all, the way it works is that when it comes to a bulk cargo, which is a charter party, the master as a representative of the owner, because the owner as a carrier is the one who's got the responsibility to issue the bills of lading, because it has got the primary function as a receipt of a cargo. However, in many cases that is delegated to the agent. So one of the things which needs to come, and I did not see enough in the FIT documents also, the way AAA has been involved through FIATA, are the Agents Association and the Owners Association also involved in similar discussion? If not, it has to be there. That's number one. So Captain, to address your question, it's about, yes, the master has got the responsibility because he's the one who's signing on behalf, and even today most of the bulk cargoes, the master themselves sign the bills of lading. The very rare cases where the agent is authorized. In certain cases, I have seen even the shippers being authorized to do that. Of course, that is based on the agreement between the owners concerned and the shippers. Big shippers have been granted that authority. But the responsibility or the liability of that cargo, whatever is being put in that document, again rests with the owner through the master.
Sorry, I have a follow-up question on that, if I may. Please. A lot of entities are getting involved in the aspect of closing the bill of lading. Agency unions, trade unions, traders unions. Don't you think that is now encroaching upon the responsibility of a master, and in that event the liability of the master should be diluted to an extent where he is going to be, after him closing on the bill of lading also, it is going to be open to several entities to attend to it in terms of amending it, modification, without even the master having known about it. Earlier it was only the transfer of title. I mean, now through various modes of technology, everyone will have some kind of access to it at some point of time. Unless I'm wrong, please correct me on that.
Well, again, here the ultimate responsibility is with the owner, the ship owner, the carrier, who's issuing the PL. And unless that carrier authorizes, I worked with the ship owner for 5 years, so that it was extremely clear that even in switch BLs, unless it goes back to the head office and it is authorized, even the branch offices, we were not authorized to issue a bills of lading switch one. Even though we have got an email, even though we got the original 3 sets surrendered, still, unless it goes back to the head office only with an explicit confirmation, we can issue. So it goes back to the carrier for reconfirmation. So therefore, the master's liability on that is not going to be there, because ultimately the liability is with the owner, who is going to authorize the agent or whosoever in the chain to issue the next set with whatever additional details must be there.
Good, then, thank you very much. Finally, summarizing, we can't escape. It's going to happen within a few years. It will become a reality. And just like Singam 3 ended, it's the largest grosser in the last 10-15 days. I think it's approached 231 crores. I hope our panel did the same. Thank you very much for your patience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. I request Mr. Shiv Iyer from Renata Partners to please join us on stage to present a token of our appreciation to our moderator and panelists. Welcome, sir.